The invisible woman. Luna Matthews had perfected the art of disappearing in plain sight. For 2 years, she had been Damian Cross's executive assistant, moving through his world like a shadow that organized files and delivered coffee. She wore oversized blazers that swallowed her frame, thick glasses that dominated her face, and kept her chestnut hair scraped back so severely it might have been painted on. This morning felt different. The Santorini project contracts lay spread across Damian's mahogany desk like treasure maps, and Luna could feel something shifting inside her chest as she watched him review the documents. His steel-gray eyes scanned the pages with the intensity of a predator, and she wondered what it would feel like to have that focus directed at her instead of through her. "Clear my schedule for next week," Damian commanded without looking up. "We're flying to Greece to finalize the resort deal personally." The word "we" hit Luna like an electric shock. In 2 years, Damian had never included her in anything beyond the sterile confines of his Manhattan office. She gripped her tablet tighter, feeling her pulse quicken. "I'll need someone to handle documentation and coordinate with the local teams," he continued, his voice carrying that familiar tone of absolute authority. "Book 2 rooms at the Celestial Santorini Resort. We leave Monday." Luna's fingers trembled slightly over her tablet screen. This was it, the moment she had been unconsciously waiting for without even realizing it. A chance to step outside the glass cage she had built around herself. "Of course, Mr. Cross," she replied. But something had changed in her voice, a note of determination that surprised even her. As she walked back to her desk, Luna caught her reflection in the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park. The woman staring back looked trapped, buried under layers of deliberate invisibility. But in her brown eyes, something was finally stirring to life. That evening, alone in her modest Brooklyn apartment, Luna stood before her bathroom mirror and began to dismantle the fortress she had built around herself. The severe bun came undone first, releasing waves of rich hair that cascaded past her shoulders. The thick glasses followed, revealing eyes that weren't just brown, but warm amber flecked with gold. For the first time in years, Luna really looked at herself. Her skin glowed with natural luminescence, her features delicate yet strong. When she smiled, her entire face transformed into something radiant. 2 years of being invisible, she whispered to her reflection. She thought about Damian's casual dismissal, the way he announced their trip without asking if she had plans, without considering she might have a life beyond serving his needs. Every time he had looked right through her, spoken to her like she was voice-activated software rather than flesh and blood, Luna made a decision that would shatter everything. The weekend became her revolution. In a Soho salon, skilled hands transformed her appearance with cuts and colors that made her hair catch light like spun silk. A makeup artist taught her to enhance what had always been there, hiding beneath professional camouflage. Shopping felt like stepping into a different universe. Instead of shapeless armor, Luna chose pieces that were professional but perfectly fitted. A silk blouse in deep emerald that made her eyes sparkle. A tailored dress in midnight blue that celebrated rather than concealed her curves. Each purchase felt like reclaiming a stolen piece of herself. Monday morning arrived with unseasonable warmth, and Luna stood in the lobby of Cross Industries Tower, her transformation complete. She wore the emerald silk blouse with a charcoal skirt that actually fit her body, her hair flowing in soft waves around her face. Without the thick glasses, her amber eyes seemed to glow with inner fire. When the elevator doors opened and Damian stepped out, Luna felt her breath catch, but not from nervousness this time. From power. He walked past her without a glance, just as he had every morning for 2 years. But today, that blindness would cost him everything. Awakening in Santorini. The flight to Santorini stretched endlessly before them, and Luna settled into her first-class seat with a mixture of anticipation and terror. Damian sat across the aisle, absorbed in his laptop as usual, completely oblivious to the transformation that had taken place right under his nose. But she noticed other passengers noticing her. A businessman offered to help with her carry-on. The flight attendant complimented her blouse. Each interaction felt like proof that she had successfully stepped out of her invisible shell. Halfway through the flight, Damian finally looked up from his screen, and his gaze landed on Luna. For a split second, confusion flickered across his features, as if he was seeing her for the first time, but couldn't quite place why she looked different. "Did you confirm the meeting with Stavros Petrakis?" he asked, his voice carrying its usual businesslike tone. "Yes. Mr. Cross. Tomorrow at 10 a.m. at the resort's conference center," Luna replied, meeting his gaze directly instead of staring at her tablet like she usually did. Something in her steady eye contact seemed to unsettle him. He frowned slightly, then returned to his laptop without another word. The celestial Santorini resort materialized before them like something from a dream. White buildings cascaded down cliffsides toward impossibly blue water, and the late afternoon sun painted everything in shades of gold and amber. Luna felt her breath catch at the beauty of it all. Their rooms were on the same floor, but at opposite ends of a long corridor lined with bougainvillea. Luna's suite overlooked the caldera, and she stood on her private terrace, watching the sun sink toward the horizon, feeling more alive than she had in years. That evening, the resort hosted a welcome reception for business guests on the main terrace. Luna had packed carefully for this trip, and she chose a flowing dress in deep sapphire that made her skin glow and her eyes shine like amber jewels. She left her hair loose the way the stylist had taught her, framing her face in soft waves. When she emerged onto the terrace, conversations seemed to pause around her. Men turned to look. Women appraised her with the kind of attention she had never experienced before. The power of it was intoxicating. Luna moved through the crowd with newfound confidence, introducing herself to investors and developers who had never paid her any attention during video conferences. They listened when she spoke about the project details, treating her like an equal rather than invisible support staff. She was deep in conversation with a Greek architect when she felt eyes on her from across the terrace. Turning, she found Damian staring at her with an expression she had never seen before. His usual mask of controlled indifference had slipped, replaced by something that looked almost like hunger. He approached slowly, like a predator who had spotted something unexpected in his territory. When he reached her, he didn't acknowledge the architect or anyone else in their small group. His steel-gray eyes were fixed entirely on Luna. "Ms. Matthews," he said, and her name sounded different in his mouth. Richer somehow, more real. "Mr. Cross," she replied, proud that her voice remained steady, despite the way he was looking at her. "I didn't realize you owned anything so." He paused, his gaze traveling down her body in a way that made heat pool in her stomach, appropriate for evening events. The comment should have been insulting, but Luna caught the undertone of something else. Recognition, desire. The knowledge that he was finally seeing her as more than office furniture. Thought it was time to invest in some pieces suitable for international business trips, she replied smoothly. "After all, I represent Cross Industries too." Damian's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. For 2 years, he had treated her like she was barely human. And now she was standing here looking like every man's fantasy while speaking to him with calm professionalism. The balance of power between them had shifted without him even noticing it happening. The architect cleared his throat and excused himself, sensing the tension crackling between them. "You look different," Damian said finally, his voice lower now, almost intimate. "Do I?" Luna tilted her head slightly, letting the question hang in the air like smoke. Why the sudden change? Maybe I got tired of being invisible. The words hit their target. She saw it in the way his eyes narrowed, the muscle that jumped in his jaw. For the first time in their professional relationship, Luna had made Damian Cross uncomfortable. "You were never invisible," he said. But they both knew it was a lie. "Weren't I?" Luna stepped closer, close enough to smell his cologne, cedar, and something darker. "Tell me, Mr. Cross, what color are my eyes?" He stared at her, and she watched the realization dawn. He didn't know. After 2 years of daily interaction, he had never actually looked at her long enough to notice. "They're amber," she said softly, "with flecks of gold. But you wouldn't know that, would you?" Before he could respond, a voice called out across the terrace. "Damian, there you are." A woman materialized from the crowd, tall and striking with platinum hair and a red dress that clung to her like a second skin. She wrapped her arm possessively around Damian's, her smile sharp as broken glass. "Aren't you going to introduce me to your—" She looked Luna up and down with barely concealed disdain. "Assistant?" "Luna, this is Vivian Ashford." Damian said, and something in his voice had gone flat. My fiancé. The word hit Luna like a physical blow. Fiancé. 2 years of working beside him, and she had never known, never suspected. He had never mentioned anyone, never taken personal calls in her presence, never worn a ring. Charmed, Vivienne said, though her tone suggested otherwise. She turned to Damian, her voice dropping to an intimate purr. Darling, I've been looking everywhere for you. We need to discuss the seating arrangements for the reception. Luna felt something inside her chest crack and splinter. She had spent an entire weekend transforming herself, reclaiming her power, only to discover that Damian Cross had been claimed by someone else all along. If you'll excuse me, Luna said, her voice surprisingly steady. I should review tomorrow's presentation materials. She turned to leave, but Damian's hand shot out and caught her wrist. The touch sent electricity racing up her arm. Luna, he said, and there was something desperate in the way he said her name. Wait. But she pulled free and walked away, leaving him standing there with his fiancé's arm still wrapped around his, and the taste of something broken and bitter flooding her mouth. As Luna reached the edge of the terrace, she heard Vivienne's voice, sharp and cutting through the warm evening air. Really, Damian? You should have told me you upgraded your assistant. This one is almost presentable. Luna didn't look back, but she felt Damian's eyes on her, burning into her spine like twin brands, all the way back to her room. The breaking point, Luna didn't sleep that night. She stood on her terrace, watching the stars wheel overhead, feeling the warm Mediterranean breeze against her skin, and tried to understand why Damian's engagement hurt so much. She had convinced herself that her transformation was about reclaiming her own power, her own identity. But somewhere in the process, she had started wanting him to see her, really see her, and now it was too late. The morning meeting with Stavros Petrakis went smoothly despite the tension coiled tight in Luna's chest. She sat across from Damian in the conference room, watching him negotiate with the Greek developer, and wondered how she had ever thought she could compete with someone like Vivian Ashford. Someone who belonged in his world of wealth and privilege. Ms. Matthews? Stavros was looking at her expectantly. Luna realized she had missed a question. I apologize. Could you repeat that? The environmental impact assessments. Do you have the updated reports? She pulled the documents from her tablet with practiced efficiency, falling back into her role as the invisible assistant who made everything run smoothly. It felt like putting on old armor, familiar but suffocating. After the meeting, Damian caught up with her in the corridor outside the conference room. Luna. She kept walking, her heels clicking against the marble floor. Luna, stop. I have work to do, Mr. Cross. We need to talk. About what? She finally turned to face him, keeping her expression professional despite the chaos inside her. The Petrakis deal is moving forward as planned. I'll have the revised contracts ready for your review by this afternoon. That's not what I want to talk about. Then we have nothing to discuss. His hand caught her arm, gentler than the night before, but no less insistent. Last night, Vivian, I should have told you. Why? Luna pulled free from his grip. I'm your assistant, Mr. Cross. Your personal life is none of my business, just like mine is none of yours. Something dangerous flashed in his eyes. Is that right? That's right. Then explain why you showed up to this trip looking like that. His gaze raked over her, not with the clinical dismissal she was used to, but with barely restrained hunger. Explain why you've been different since we arrived. More confident, more present. Maybe I finally realized I deserved to be seen. I see you, Luna. No. Her voice came out sharper than she intended. You see a version of me that fits whatever fantasy you've constructed in the last 24 hours. But you didn't see me for 2 years. You don't get to suddenly notice me now, just because I'm wearing better clothes. You think that's all this is? He stepped closer, backing her against the wall. You think I care about your clothes? I think you're engaged to someone else. Luna forced herself to meet his eyes, to hold her ground, even though his proximity made her pulse race. I think you're exactly the kind of man I should have known better than to want. The confession slipped out before she could stop it. Damian went very still. You want me? Luna's laugh tasted bitter. It doesn't matter what I want. Go back to your fiancé, Mr. Cross. I'm sure she's wondering where you are. She pushed past him and walked away, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might crack her ribs. That afternoon, Luna worked from her suite, trying to focus on contracts and spreadsheets instead of the way Damian had looked at her in that corridor. Like she was something precious and dangerous at the same time. A knock on her door interrupted her brooding. When she opened it, she found Vivian standing in the hallway, her smile as cold and perfect as winter crystal. May I come in? Every instinct screamed at Luna to refuse, but curiosity won out. Of course. Vivian swept into the suite with the confidence of someone who had never been told no. She was stunning in white linen, her platinum hair catching the afternoon light like a halo. I wanted to have a little chat, Vivian said, settling herself on the sofa without being invited. Woman to woman. Luna remained standing. About what? About Damian. I'm not sure what you think there is to discuss. Oh, please. Vivian's laugh was musical and cruel. Do you think I'm blind? I saw the way you looked at him last night, the way he looked at you. Luna's throat went tight. Mr. Cross and I have a professional relationship. For now. Vivian crossed her legs elegantly. But you're hoping for more, aren't you? That's what all this is about. She gestured vaguely at Luna's appearance. The makeover, the pretty dresses. You're hoping he'll notice you. I think you should leave. In a moment. Vivian's smile sharpened. First, I want to tell you something. Something that might save you a great deal of heartache. Luna waited, her hands clenched at her sides. Damian doesn't love me, Vivian said matter-of-factly. Our engagement is a business arrangement. My family's investment firm is backing his next 3 development projects. Marriage was part of the deal. The casual revelation hit Luna like cold water. Then why? Why marry without love? Vivian shrugged. Because love is for children and fools. Damian and I understand each other. We both know that power and security matter more than fleeting passion. That's the saddest thing I've ever heard. Is it? Vivian tilted her head. Or is it honest? At least I know exactly what I'm getting. Can you say the same? Before Luna could respond, her phone buzzed with a message from Damian. Dinner tonight. My suite. 8 p.m. We need to talk. Vivian's eyes flicked to the screen, reading the message upside down. Her smile turned predatory. Go to dinner if you want, she said, standing gracefully. Hear whatever he has to say. But remember this. I have contracts, Luna. Legal documents that bind Damian to me for the next 5 years at minimum. What do you have? She left without waiting for an answer. Luna stared at her phone, at Damian's message, and felt something inside her shift and harden. At 8 o'clock, she knocked on his door. Damian opened it immediately, and the sight of him made her breath catch despite everything. He was dressed, casually, dark jeans and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up, revealing forearms she had never let herself notice before. You came, he said, and there was relief in his voice. I shouldn't have. But you did. His suite was twice the size of hers, with a private dining terrace overlooking the caldera. He had arranged for dinner to be set up outside, candles flickering, in the warm evening breeze, the sea spreading out below them like dark silk. It was devastatingly romantic, and it made Luna furious. Why am I here, Damian? His name felt strange on her tongue. Intimate. Dangerous. Because I need to explain. Your fiancé already explained everything. Luna walked to the terrace railing, putting distance between them. Business arrangement, investment deals, very tidy. She told you that? Was she lying? Silence stretched between them, filled only by the distant sound of waves against cliffs. No, Damian said finally. She wasn't lying? Luna laughed, the sound sharp and breaking. At least you're honest. Luna. He moved behind her, close enough that she could feel his body heat against her back. I never expected you. Expected me for what? To make me question everything. She turned to face him, and the expression on his face made something crack inside her chest. He looked lost, vulnerable in a way she had never seen before. 2 years, she said softly. I was right there for 2 years. Why now? Why when it's too late? Because I'm an idiot. His hand came up, hesitating just inches from her face. Because I was so focused on building my empire that I stopped seeing people. Stopped seeing you. And now that you see me, what? You expect me to be grateful? To fall into your arms even though you're engaged to someone else? No, his hand dropped. I expect you to hate me. I deserve that. I don't hate you. The admission hurt to say out loud. I wish I did. It would be easier, Luna. Her name was a prayer on his lips. If I could undo it, if I could go back and make different choices. But you can't. No. The word came out broken. I can't. They stood there on the terrace, so close and yet impossibly far apart, while the night gathered around them like a held breath. I should go, Luna said, but she didn't move. Stay. Damian's voice was raw. Just for tonight. No expectations. No promises. Just stay. Luna knew it was a terrible idea. Knew that every moment she spent with him would only dig the knife deeper into her heart. But she stayed anyway. They ate dinner beneath the stars, talking about everything except the impossible situation binding them. Damian told her about growing up poor in Detroit, fighting his way to the top through sheer will and ruthless ambition. Luna shared stories about her childhood in foster care, about learning to make herself small and invisible to survive. Is that why you hid yourself? Damian asked. Because you learned it was safer to disappear? Maybe. Luna traced the rim of her wine glass. Or maybe I just never believed I deserved to be seen. You deserve everything. Luna, the words hung in the air between them, weighted with meaning neither of them could afford to acknowledge. When the meal was finished, when the wine had been drunk and the candles had burned low, Damian walked her to his door. Thank you, he said quietly, for staying, for talking to me. Luna looked up at him, at the man who had finally learned to see her just in time for it to mean nothing. This can't happen again, she said. Dinner, conversations, whatever this is. I know. I mean it, Damian. So do I. But when she turned to leave, his hand caught hers. The touch sent electricity racing through her veins, a connection so powerful it made her gasp. One more thing, Damian said, his voice rough, before this ends. Before we go back to being boss and assistant. He pulled her close, his free hand sliding up to cup her face. And Luna knew she should stop this. Should walk away before they crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. Instead, she let him kiss her. His lips were soft against hers. Gentle at first, then deeper, more desperate. Luna's hands fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer, even as her mind screamed that this was wrong. That he belonged to someone else, that she was destroying herself. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Damian rested his forehead against hers. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm so sorry, Luna, she pulled away, tears burning in her eyes. So am I. Luna walked back to her room with the taste of him still on her lips and the knowledge that she had just made the biggest mistake of her life. But when she opened her door, she found Vivian sitting on her bed, her phone in hand, and a smile like poison on her face. That was quite a show, Vivian said, turning the phone screen to show Luna a photo. I especially loved the kiss. Very photogenic. Luna's blood turned to ice. What do you want? Oh, I think you know. Vivian stood gracefully. Pack your things. You're on the first flight back to New York tomorrow morning. You can't make me leave. Can I? Vivian's laugh was crystalline and cruel. Send these photos to Damian's board of directors, along with a story about how his assistant seduced him on a business trip, and see how long you keep your job. See how long he keeps his reputation. You wouldn't. Try me. Vivian walked to the door, pausing with her hand on the handle. You have 12 hours to disappear. Luna, make the right choice. She left, and Luna stood alone in her room, feeling the walls close in around her, because she knew Vivian wasn't bluffing, and she knew that leaving Damian would destroy her, but staying would destroy them both. Betrayal and choice Luna didn't pack her bags. Instead, she stood on her terrace until dawn painted the sky in shades of rose and gold, making a decision that would change everything. She wasn't running, not anymore. At 7 a.m., she knocked on Damian's door. He opened it looking rough, still wearing last night's clothes, his hair disheveled like he had been running his hands through it repeatedly. Luna. Relief flooded his face. I thought you'd left. Vivian said you were flying back this morning. Can I come in? He stepped aside immediately, and Luna walked past him into the suite where they had shared dinner just hours ago. In daylight, the space looked different. Less romantic. More real. Vivian came to my room last night, Luna said without preamble. She took photos of us. Of the kiss. Damian's face went hard. She what? She threatened to send them to your board of directors if I didn't leave immediately. That manipulative little... Damian bit off the curse, his hands clenching into fists. I'll handle this. No. Luna's voice was steady despite the fear coursing through her. I will. Luna, you don't understand what she's capable of, don't I? Luna finally met his eyes. She's protecting her investment. Her business arrangement. I understand perfectly. This isn't your fight. Yes, it is. Luna stepped closer. Because I'm done being invisible. Done letting people push me around because they think I don't matter. If Vivian wants a war, I'll give her one. Something fierce and proud flickered in Damian's eyes. What are you planning? I'm going to call her bluff. And if she's not bluffing? Luna's smile was sharp. Then we both lose everything. But at least I'll lose it on my terms. Before Damian could respond, his phone rang. He glanced at the screen and his expression darkened. It's Harrison Chen, my board chairman. He answered. Harrison, what can I do for you? Luna watched his face change as he listened. Watched the color drain from his skin. Watched his jaw tighten until she thought it might crack. I see, he said finally, his voice like ice. No, I wasn't aware. Give me 30 minutes. He ended the call and looked at Luna with eyes, full of something that might have been respect, or might have been devastation. Vivian already sent the photos. The words hit Luna like a physical blow, but she forced herself to stay standing. What did Harrison say? Emergency board meeting in 2 hours. Video conference. Damian's laugh was bitter. Apparently I've become a liability. Sexual harassment allegations. Abuse of power. They're talking about forcing me to step down. I'll tell them the truth. That I kissed you. That it was consensual. That won't matter. Damian ran his hands through his hair, pacing like a caged animal. The optics are terrible. Boss and assistant. Business trip in a romantic location. They'll say I coerced you. Then what do we do? We? He stopped pacing, staring at her. Luna, you need to get as far away from this as possible. Let me take the fall alone. Absolutely not. This will destroy your career too. I don't care. You should care. He crossed to her in 3 long strides, gripping her shoulders. You should run. Find another job. Another life. Forget you ever met me. Is that what you want? What I want doesn't matter. Answer the question, Damian. His hands tightened on her shoulders, his steel-gray eyes burning into hers. No, it's not what I want. I want you to stay. I want to fight for this. For us. But I'm not selfish enough to drag you down with me. What if I'm selfish enough to choose it anyway? Before he could respond, Luna's phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Meet me at the old lighthouse at the north end of the island. 1 hour. Come alone. Damian read the message over her shoulder. Don't go. It's obviously a trap. Or it's a chance to end this. Luna looked up at him. If Vivian wants to meet, I'm going to find out why. Not alone. You're not. She said alone. I don't care what she said. They stared at each other. Two stubborn people locked in a battle of wills, until Luna finally nodded. Fine, but you stay out of sight. If she sees you, whatever chance we have disappears. The lighthouse stood on a rocky promontory, its white paint peeling under years of salt and sun. Luna climbed the narrow path alone, feeling Damian's presence somewhere behind her like a shadow. Vivian was waiting at the top, elegant even in casual clothes, her platinum hair whipping in the sea breeze. You came, she said, something like approval in her voice. What do you want, Vivian? To make a deal. Luna's laugh was sharp. You already sent the photos to the board. What's left to deal for? I sent the photos, yes. Vivian leaned against the lighthouse railing, looking out at the sea. But I didn't send the context. I didn't tell them that Damian and I have an arrangement. That our engagement is purely business. Why not? Because that information is leverage. Vivian turned to face her. And I'm willing to trade it. For what? For you to disappear. Permanently. Luna felt tears burn in her eyes, but she blinked them back. Vivian's expression turned ugly. You're making a mistake. Both of you. Maybe. Damian's grip on Luna's hand tightened. But it's our mistake to make. Then you'll pay for it. Vivian's voice dropped to something venomous. I'll make sure everyone knows what happened here. The board, the media, your competitors. By tomorrow, Damian Cross will be a cautionary tale about mixing business with pleasure. Do your worst, Damian said quietly. I'm done being controlled. Vivian stared at them both, her perfect composure finally cracking. You'll regret this, when his company collapses, when your reputation is destroyed, when you have nothing left but each other and realize it's not enough. She swept past them down the lighthouse stairs, her heels ringing against stone like gunshots. Luna and Damian stood alone at the top of the lighthouse, the sea spreading out below them in endless blue. You shouldn't have done that, Luna said, her voice shaking. The buyout alone will cost you millions. I know. Your board might still vote you out. I know that too. So why? She turned to face him. Why throw it all away? Damian reached up and cupped her face in his hands, his thumbs brushing away tears she hadn't realized were falling. Because I've spent my entire life building an empire, he said softly. Building walls, making myself untouchable. And then you walked into that reception wearing a blue dress. And for the first time in years, I wanted something more than power. What if wanting isn't enough? Then we'll figure it out together. He pressed his forehead against hers. I can't promise you easy, Luna. I can't promise that this won't get worse before it gets better. But I can promise that I see you, really see you, and I'm not going to stop seeing you just because it's convenient. Luna closed her eyes, breathing him in, feeling the warmth of his hands against her skin. I'm scared, she admitted. So am I. What happens now? Now? Damian pulled back just enough to look into her eyes. Now we go face my board. Together, we tell them the truth, and we deal with whatever comes next. Together, Luna repeated, the word feeling like a promise and a prayer all at once. They walked down from the lighthouse hand in hand, leaving behind the woman who had tried to buy their future and stepping into an uncertain dawn where the only certainty was each other. But as they reached the base of the path, Luna's phone buzzed one final time. A message from Vivian. You think you've won. But I have one more card to play. Check Damian's email. The one from Marcus Webb, his business partner. The one sent 3 months ago. Then ask yourself if he's really the man you think he is. Luna's blood went cold. She looked up at Damian, at the man she had just chosen over safety and security, and saw something flicker in his eyes. Fear? What email? She asked quietly. Who is Marcus Webb? Damian's face went ashen. Luna, let me explain. What email, Damian? He pulled out his phone with hands that shook slightly, scrolling through old messages until he found the one Vivian had referenced. He handed the phone to Luna without a word. Luna read the email once, then again, Then a third time, hoping she had somehow misunderstood. Damian, confirmed per your request. Luna Matthews background check completed. Foster care system, no family, no connections. Perfect candidate for long-term retention with minimal external complications. Financial vulnerability makes her unlikely to seek alternative employment. Recommend standard assistant contract with non-compete clause. M.W. Luna looked up from the screen, her vision blurring with tears. You investigated me, she said, her voice hollow. Before you even hired me, you made sure I was trapped. Made sure I had nowhere else to go. Luna, it's not what it looks like. Then what is it? She shoved the phone back at him. Tell me how this is anything other than you choosing me specifically because I was vulnerable. Because I had no one who would fight for me if you decided to mistreat me. I was protecting my company, Damian said desperately. I've had assistants steal from me, leak confidential information. I needed someone I could trust. So you chose someone with no choice. Luna's laugh was broken glass. Someone who needed the job so badly she'd put up with anything. Even being invisible for 2 years. I never meant to hurt you, but you did. She backed away from him, wrapping her arms around herself. You stood up there and talked about seeing me, about wanting something more than power, but you chose me because I was powerless, because I was easy to control. That's not true anymore. Damian reached for her, but she flinched away. Whatever my reasons were 2 years ago, that's not who you are to me now. How do I know that? Luna's voice cracked. How do I know any of this is real? The dinner, the kiss, standing up to Vivian. What if that's just another form of control? Because I love you. The words hung in the air between them, stark and raw and terrifying. You don't get to say that, Luna whispered. Not now. Not after this. It's the truth. I don't know what's true anymore. She turned away from him, looking out at the sea. I need time. I need to think. Luna, please. Go to your board meeting, Damian. Save your company. Do what you've always done. She finally looked back at him, and the devastation in her eyes made him flinch. But do it without me. Luna walked away, leaving Damian standing alone on the path, watching the woman he loved disappear into the bright Greek morning with the taste of betrayal, bitter on both their tongues, cold spread through her chest. You want me to quit? More than quit. I want you gone from his life completely. No contact. No communication. You find a new job in a different city, maybe a different country. You make yourself as invisible as you were before you decided to play dress up. And in exchange, I tell the board the truth, that Damian and I have an open arrangement, that you and he did nothing wrong. His reputation stays intact. His company stays secure. Vivian's smile was poisonous. All it costs is you. Luna's hands clenched on the railing. Why do you even care? You don't love him. No. Vivian's expression hardened. But I own him. I spent $5 million securing this engagement, securing the business arrangement that comes with it. I'm not letting some secretary steal my investment. I'm not stealing anything. You said yourself this is business. Then treat it like business. Vivian pulled a document from her bag. A separation agreement. You sign it, you get a severance package worth $500,000. Enough to start over somewhere new, somewhere far away from Damian Cross. Luna took the document with trembling hands. It was real, legal, already drawn up and notarized. You've been planning this, she said quietly. Since the moment I saw the way he looked at you at the reception. Vivian's voice was matter-of-fact. I've built an empire by anticipating threats and eliminating them. You're just another business problem to solve. And if I don't sign, then I destroy you both. I have resources you can't imagine, Luna. Private investigators, media contacts. I can make sure neither of you works in this industry again. Luna looked at the contract, at the promise of freedom it represented. Freedom bought with the price of never seeing Damian again, never speaking his name, never finishing what had barely begun between them. How long do I have to decide? You don't. Vivian pulled a pen from her bag. Sign now or the offer expires. Luna stood at the top of the lighthouse, feeling the wind tear at her clothes, feeling the weight of an impossible choice crushing down on her shoulders. Behind her, she heard the soft scrape of footsteps on stone. Damian appeared at the top of the stairs, his face a mask of cold fury. Don't sign that document, Luna. Vivian's smile sharpened. Damian, how predictable. Couldn't let your assistant fight her own battles? This stopped being her battle the moment you made it one. He crossed to Luna, placing himself between her and Vivian. I'm done with your games, Vivian. I'm done with this arrangement. You can't break our contract. Watch me. Damian's voice was steel wrapped in ice. I'll buy out your family's investment. I'll pay whatever penalties the contract specifies. But I'm ending this engagement. For her? Vivian laughed, but there was something brittle in it now. You'd throw away everything for a secretary you barely noticed until 3 days ago? No. Damian reached back and took Luna's hand, lacing their fingers together. I'd throw it away for a woman who made me remember what it feels like to want something more than power. Someone who taught me that being invisible isn't the same as being worthless. Luna felt. The reckoning Luna spent 3 hours sitting on a secluded beach, staring at the water and trying to understand how everything had fallen apart so completely. The transformation she had thought was about reclaiming her power had been built on a foundation of manipulation. Damian had chosen her specifically because she was vulnerable, had investigated her background to ensure she would be easy to retain, easy to control. But then she thought about the way he had looked at her on that terrace, the way he had kissed her, the way he had been willing to throw away everything to stand with her against Vivian. Were those the actions of a man who saw her as merely a convenient employee? Or were they the actions of someone who had started with cold calculation but ended up genuinely caring? Luna didn't know anymore. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. The board meeting started 20 minutes ago. Thought you'd want to know. They're voting on whether to remove Damian as CEO. It's not going well. SP Stavros Petrakis. The Greek developer must have contacts on the board. Luna stared at the message, feeling her chest tighten. Whatever Damian had done, whatever his original intentions had been, he was fighting for his company right now. Fighting consequences that had started because of her transformation, her choices, their kiss. She stood up, brushing sand from her clothes, and made a decision. If she was going to walk away from Damian Cross, she would do it after ensuring he didn't lose everything because of her. She owed him that much at least. Luna ran back to the resort, her heart pounding, and burst into Damian's suite without knocking. He was seated at the desk, his laptop open to a video conference where 8 stern faces stared out from the screen. He looked up when she entered, shock and hope warring in his expression. I need to say something, Luna announced to the board members visible on screen. My name is Luna Matthews. I'm Mr. Cross's executive assistant, and I need you to hear the truth about what happened on this trip. Harrison Chen, the board chairman, frowned. Ms. Matthews, this is a closed board meeting. I don't care. Luna moved to stand beside Damian, ignoring the way his eyes tracked her every movement. You're making decisions based on incomplete information, based on photos taken out of context and stories told by someone with a vested interest in destroying Mr. Cross's reputation. Are you denying that you and Mr. Cross engaged in inappropriate behavior during a business trip? A woman on the screen asked sharply. No. Luna lifted her chin. I'm not denying it. Damian and I kissed. But it wasn't harassment. It wasn't coercion. It was 2 adults making a choice. A choice that violated company policy regarding supervisor and subordinate relationships, Harrison said. Then fire me, Luna shot back. I'm the subordinate. I'm the one who should face consequences for violating policy. But don't destroy a man's career because he finally allowed himself to be human instead of a machine. Ms. Matthews, another board member interjected. We appreciate your willingness to take responsibility, but the optics of this situation are problematic regardless of who initiated the relationship. The optics? Luna felt anger surge through her, hot and righteous. Or the truth? Because the truth is that Vivian Ashford orchestrated this entire situation. She took photos without consent. She made threats. She sent you carefully edited information designed to make Damian look like a predator, and me look like a victim. Ms. Ashford's family represents a significant investment in Cross Industries, Harrison said carefully. Are you suggesting we ignore her concerns? I'm suggesting you investigate her motives before you throw away the best CEO this company has ever had. Damian's hand found hers under the desk, squeezing gently. She squeezed back but didn't look at him. Couldn't look at him without losing her composure. This board has a fiduciary responsibility to the shareholders, Harrison continued. Mr. Cross's personal relationships are relevant only insofar as they impact the company's reputation and financial stability. Then let me tell you what will impact your financial stability, Luna said, her voice steady despite her racing pulse. Losing Damian will cost you billions. The Santorini project alone is projected to generate $800 million in revenue over 5 years. The Tokyo expansion, the Dubai partnership, the Sustainable Development Initiative, all of those deals exist because of Damian's vision and relationships. She pulled out her tablet, pulling up documents she had been compiling for weeks. But more than that, you'll lose talent. Do you know how many department heads have told me they'd leave if Damian were pushed out? 16. That's over 40% of your senior leadership team. They respect him. They trust him. And they won't work for a board that throws him away because of a vendetta from a jilted business partner. The board members exchanged glances, uncomfortable murmurs passing between them. You've made your point, Ms. Matthews, Harrison said finally. But this doesn't address the fundamental issue. Mr. Cross engaged in a relationship with a subordinate. That's grounds for removal regardless of the circumstances. Then I resign, Luna said. Damian's hand tightened almost painfully on hers. Luna, no. She finally looked at him, and the devastation in his eyes nearly broke her resolve. If the problem is that I'm your subordinate, she said to the board, then I'm no longer your subordinate. Effective immediately, I resign from Cross Industries. I'll sign whatever separation agreements you need. I'll agree to never work in this industry again if that's what it takes. Luna, stop, Damian said desperately. You don't have to do this. Yes, I do. She turned to face him fully, ignoring the board members watching from the screen. You were willing to sacrifice everything for me. Let me do the same for you. That's different. Why? Because I'm not worth it? Luna felt tears threaten, but she blinked them back. You told me you see me, Damian. That you love me. If that's true, then let me choose this. Let me walk away knowing I saved something that matters instead of destroying it. You matter more than any company. Then prove it. She squeezed his hand one final time, then let go. Build something worth the sacrifice. Be the man I thought you were when I decided to stay instead of run. Luna turned back to the screen, to the board members who held Damian's fate in their hands. I'll send my resignation in writing within the hour, she said. Damian and I will have no further contact. The relationship is over. The problem is solved. Now vote on the only thing that actually matters, whether this company is better off with or without the man who built it. She walked toward the door, each step feeling like tearing pieces of herself away and leaving them scattered on the floor behind her. Luna. Damian's voice stopped her at the threshold. Wait. She turned back, and the look on his face made something crack inside her chest. The email, he said quietly. The background check? You were right. I chose you because you seemed controllable, because you seemed safe. But that's not why I kept you for 2 years. And it's definitely not why I'm fighting for you now. Then why? Because you're brilliant. Because you made my company run smoother than it ever has. Because you cared about the work, about the people, about making things better instead of just making money. His voice roughened. And because somewhere along the way, watching you move through my world like you were invisible, I started to wish you'd let me see you. Really see you. You never asked. I know. Damian stood, moving toward her slowly like she was something wild that might bolt. I know I failed you. I know I hurt you. And I know that walking away right now is probably the smartest thing you could do. He stopped a few feet away, giving her space but holding her gaze. But before you go, he said softly, I need you to know something. That kiss on the terrace wasn't about control. It wasn't about convenience or power or any of the things I've spent my life chasing. It was about wanting someone so much that all the walls I built to protect myself didn't matter anymore. Damian. His name came out broken. I love you, Luna Matthews. Not because you're convenient, not because you're controllable, but because you're brave and brilliant and you look at me like I'm still capable of being something more than cold calculation. He took one more step closer, And if you walk out that door, I'll respect your choice. I'll let you go, but I need you to know that letting you go will be the hardest thing I've ever done." Luna stood frozen in the doorway, pulled between the safety of leaving and the terrifying possibility of staying. On the laptop screen, Harrison Chen cleared his throat. "If you two are finished with your dramatic moment," he said dryly, "the board has been discussing the situation privately. We've reached a decision." Luna and Damian both turned to face the screen, still standing on opposite sides of the room. "Mr. Cross," Harrison continued, "your relationship with Ms. Matthews has created significant complications. However, Ms. Matthews is correct that losing you would be catastrophic for the company. Therefore, we're proposing the following resolution." He paused, and Luna held her breath. "You will buy out the Ashford family's investment at a premium of 20%. You will also agree to enhanced oversight from the board for the next 12 months, including mandatory ethics training and quarterly reviews of all personnel decisions." "And Ms. Matthews' employment?" Damian asked. "If she wishes to resign, we'll provide a severance package and excellent references. If she wishes to remain with Cross Industries, she'll be transferred to a different department with a new supervisor and a promotion that reflects her obvious capabilities." Harrison's expression softened slightly. "For what it's worth, Mr. Cross, I've watched your assistant handle this situation with more grace and intelligence than most executives I know. If you've found someone like that, someone who's willing to fight for you even when they're angry with you, then you're a fool if you let her go." The video conference ended, leaving Luna and Damian alone in the suite with only the sound of their breathing filling the space between them. "You don't have to stay," Damian said quietly. "The board gave you an out. A promotion, a fresh start. You could take it and never have to see me again." "Is that what you want?" "No." The word was immediate and certain. "But I want you to choose based on what you want. Not on guilt or obligation or any sense that you owe me something." Luna looked at him standing there. This man who had started as her invisible boss and become something she couldn't quite name. Someone who had hurt her and saved her and made her feel seen for the first time in her life. "I'm still angry," she said finally, "about the background check, about being chosen because I was vulnerable. You have every right to be. And I'm scared." She wrapped her arms around herself, scared that this is moving too fast, that we're caught up in drama and adrenaline, and when things calm down, we'll realize we don't actually know each other at all. Those are valid fears. But I'm also, Luna paused, searching for the right words. "I'm also more alive than I've been in years. And I think that's because of you, because you made me want to be seen, even when you weren't looking, even when I was invisible. I was building myself into someone worth noticing, and now that I'm here, now that I've found this version of myself, I don't want to go back." She took a step toward him, then another, crossing the space between them with her heart in her throat. "So here's what I want," she said, stopping just inches away. "I want to stay with Cross Industries in that new position. I want space to figure out who I am outside of being your assistant. I want us to start over, properly this time, without power imbalances and manipulation and background checks." "I can give you that," Damian said softly. "I'm not finished." Luna reached up and placed her hand against his chest, feeling his heartbeat racing under her palm. "I also want you to take me to dinner, not as my boss, not as someone trying to control me, but as a man who's interested in a woman and wants to get to know her better. Just dinner? For now." She smiled, and it felt like the first real smile she had given him since this all began. "But if you're very lucky, and if you're very patient, and if you prove that you meant everything you said about seeing me, then maybe dinner becomes something more." "I can be patient," Damian said, his hands coming up to frame her face with devastating gentleness. "I can be whatever you need me to be. I just need you to be honest." "To be real," Luna leaned into his touch. "Can you do that?" "Yes. Then ask me." "Ask you what?" "Ask me to dinner, Damian Cross. Ask me properly." A smile curved his lips, the first genuine smile she had seen from him, and it transformed his entire face from something cold and controlled into something warm and human. "Luna Matthews," he said, his voice rough with emotion, "would you do me the honor of having dinner with me? Not as my assistant, not as part of some business arrangement, but as yourself, Just yourself. Yes, Luna whispered. I'd like that very much. They stood there in the middle of his suite, holding each other while the Santorini sun painted the room in shades of gold. Two people who had started as boss and assistant and become something far more complicated and infinitely more real. It wasn't a perfect ending. There would be challenges ahead, complications from Vivian's vendetta, whispers from people who knew their history. Luna would have to prove herself in her new position without the crutch of being close to the CEO. Damian would have to learn how to see her as an equal, instead of someone to protect or control, but for the first time in years, Luna felt visible. Truly, completely visible, and for the first time in his life, Damian was willing to be vulnerable. 3 months later, Luna sat in her new corner office on the 15th floor of Cross Industries Tower, reviewing proposals for the Sustainable Development Initiative. She had been promoted to Director of Strategic Planning, a position that finally reflected her capabilities rather than her willingness to be invisible. Her phone buzzed with a text from Damian. Dinner tonight? I found a place in Brooklyn that supposedly makes the best pizza in New York. Luna smiled and typed back, You hate pizza? I don't hate pizza. I've just never had good pizza. Figured it was time I let someone show me what I've been missing. Pick me up at 7. It's a date. Luna set her phone down and looked out her office window at the city spread out below her. She was wearing a teal silk blouse and her hair fell in soft waves around her shoulders. But more than her appearance, what had changed was the way she carried herself, with confidence, with certainty, with the knowledge that she deserved to be seen. Her journey from invisible assistant to strategic director hadn't been easy. There had been rumors, skeptical colleagues, and at least one awkward encounter with Vivian Ashford at an industry conference that had required all of Luna's newfound confidence to navigate. But she had survived it all. Thrived even. And Damian had kept his promise. He had been patient. He had been honest. He had shown up for every dinner, every coffee date, every late-night conversation where they slowly, carefully built something real out of the ashes of what they had been. They hadn't rushed. Hadn't tried to force something that needed time to grow properly. But tonight, Luna thought as she gathered her things to leave for the day, tonight felt different. Tonight felt like the beginning of something that had always been inevitable, just waiting for both of them to be brave enough to reach for it. When Damian picked her up at 7, wearing jeans and a leather jacket that made him look nothing like the cold CEO she had once known, Luna took his hand without hesitation. Ready? He asked. Ready, she confirmed. They walked out into the Brooklyn evening together, two people who had learned to see each other, finally ready to see where that vision would take them. The end.